Welcome to another episode of the Energy Hack Podcast, where we explore the dynamics of the downstream and the midstream energy sector. I am your host, Dami Ajayi. Today, our topic is on EV, electric vehicles. What's the future of EV in Nigeria and globally? And with that saying, I have a guest with me. He's been driving EV for a very long time, and I would like to say that at the age of 14, he started coding at the age of 14, which is so special. He's Nigerian-born visionary. He, however, bought into a new wave of innovation in the sunny city of Miami, Florida. His name is Fredrick, and he created JéGo Pods, a self-driving transportation solution that has taken the city by storm. JéGo Technologies promotes clean energy worldwide and in Africa. He was the creative mind behind autonomous vehicle service, which proved to be more timely than ever. He's a 4-time founder, a serial entrepreneur, a technologist, a software engineer. His name is Fredrick Akpoghene. Welcome, Fred.
Thank you very much.
Did I try?
I definitely don't introduce myself all those things, but that was my career and over time. But yeah, I'm just happy to solve problems as an entrepreneur and an engineer.
Oh, that's amazing. So I realized that you are impact driven.
Very.
Impact is in everything you do.
Yeah.
How did that come about? How did you start?
I would say the examples that were shown to me by my parents, my mother and father. They've always, they're entrepreneurs, and my mom's a bishop. So I grew up in that household where it was always about the community. Serving others. My father was an architect and developer. It was always solving for others, but also speaking up for the underprivileged from our communities in the Benin, Niger Delta region.
Okay.
Yeah, so I saw that my whole life, helping orphans, my mom helping orphans, widows. We go into those, orphanages and helping since I was like, as long as I can remember, as far back as I can remember. I always spent like every other Saturday, doing that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So that was it.
So did you just say Mushin? Did you say Mushin, Niger Delta?
Oh no, Benin.
Because your accent is giving me US vibes, So you've been in Nigeria how long? Like, you were born here?
I was born in Nigeria.
Okay.
Lived there till about 17, 18. Moved to America for university.
Okay.
And I stayed there. My professional career pretty much was my entire professional career up till this very point was pretty much in
And what did you
US.
focus on?
It's always been business development and engineering for technology companies. So that's, big data, storage solutions, software, IoT, sustainability early on too, working on like smart roads.
Okay.
I worked for a company that built smart roads. So like,
When you say smart
Dutch.
roads,
so they had some type of photoluminescent paint that would go on the roads, a Dutch company.
okay.
And this was like back in 2012, roughly. And basically charges during the day, and at night it lights up. So all these highways we have in Nigeria and Lagos, and not just in Nigeria, everywhere around the world really. If you travel interstate, there are parts that are completely dark.
Yes.
And if you have bad lighting, you're going to have high risk of a car accident. And if you have bad vision, so that was my intro point into just like reducing fatalities on roads. And I've always loved cars, so it led to JéGo.
Makes
over time
sense.
with my other personal things that happened.
Okay, nice. So JéGo, interesting name.
Thank
I know
you.
I've seen some interviews you've had and you explained it. I want to hear it from you.
Well, JéGo was a pivot from a previous company that was logistics software, and we wanted to really build something that had that African essence and the African DNA, that any average African that saw it would know how to pronounce it and resonate with it. And it was originally coined from two different words or two different pieces of words. Go, obviously mobility.
Yeah.
The J is actually from Yoruba. I grew up in Lagos, right? So I understand Yoruba a bit,
I can
So
see the army. That's the markings on
the
top
markings,
of the E.
yeah. So J is
Yeah.
from JéGo,
Okay.
right? So easy, like
Yeah.
easy go, like easy mobility, right?
Nice. Clever.
And then JéGo actually, so I lived in Senegal during my university years, so study abroad.
Oh, okay.
My university had a satellite campus in Dakar. So I learned some Senegalese, or rather Wolof language, which is where jollof actually comes from.
No.
The word jollof comes from
No,
Wolof.
let's not have that discussion. Let's not have that discussion. I don't agree, but
yeah. So I learned some words there. But long story short, JéGo means progression.
Okay. Oh, nice.
Big step, like a camel. That's how they describe it. Like a camel takes big steps. Progression. So, and in Filipino rather, JéGo means energy, and in Cameroon it's like
was all this
peace.
intentional when you were creating it?
No,
or you just
it wasn't. So the initial creation was from just I wanted to, again, that essence, and the JéGo was from Yoruba, and I also knew like across Africa that J is used in different languages. Even in Igbo, I recently learned it means almost like destination or something, like when you get there, let's go there. I'm not Igbo, but an Igbo guy was explaining to me that there's actually a word called JéGo. It's something like Ijego or something like
that just
Igbo.
Worked out perfect.
So it just worked out because it worked out perfectly. Because I remember my first one time I was in Uganda, because we have an office in Rwanda.
Yeah.
And in Rwanda, there's a word called Yego. There's a taxi company called Yego.
Like Y-E-G-O.
Yeah, and it's funny because in Spanish, J-E-G-O is would be pronounced not Jego, not Yego, but like Hego. Like the J is like silent.
Okay.
So, but it was just interesting. So people in Rwanda are saying JéGo and Yego are almost the same, because Yego means yes. So JéGo is like an action. People say it means an action word to people. Yeah, it's like let's go in Yoruba, like Jekalo, JéGo. Let's go, Jekalo. So people have been resonating with it. Uganda, people would just resonate, like the immigration officers there were just, I love the name. What is this? And this was like 2 years ago or a year and a half ago. And that was when I realized like how impactful the name will be in the adoption and acceptance of our brand on the continent.
It's very catchy, and I know when we're speaking on the phone, you were always in one African country or the other.
Yeah.
I know that's why you're here as well. You're here for a program, right? Is it an exhibition?
No. We have an office here in Lagos. Yeah. Costaris are our distribution partners. They're one of them, and we have customers here, and we're in Rwanda. We have our JéGo X station there, and we're deploying some more JéGo X stations here in Nigeria, and also obviously we're bringing our EV vehicles here, and I'm here to continue growing our presence on the continent and forging partnerships with government and private sector. We'll be in the Abuja tomorrow for the defense conference, defense conference, basically the military and other folks, like just seeing how we can implement our, presenting how we'll be able to implement our technology into like national defense and just other areas beyond, the scope. The U.S. there's been opportunities there in the U.S. too on the defense side, but our products are manufactured in China. That's a conflict on the U.S. side. So we're happy to do that here.
Oh, that's nice, because I was actually speaking about electric vehicles earlier on before you came, and I was like, you know what? I think I want one.
Sure. Especially with the price of
especially with the price
of fuel.
Yes, yeah. And I just want to see how it will feel to like drive that daily. When I was abroad, we just drive it once in a while, so that's fine. Daily experience.
What's your daily drive like in general?
To like work
distance.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to put it in perspective in terms of distance. I would say in kilometers, from my house to work should be about 50. Max. I think that's quite a lot as well. So
50 kilometers.
Yeah.
Okay, that's still not bad. So, for example, with the JéGo Zero, which is our compact SUV, so it sizes between a Model 3 and a Model Y. So long story short, that's you can get up to a 420 kilometer range
with a full charge.
with a full charge.
So,
So
okay.
yeah. So basically, with that, you can basically drive the whole week, roughly,
Oh, that's good then.
all virtually. And we have the power pods and other modular energy systems to ensure you can have energy on the go. And if you ever wanted to power your house temporarily, you can do up to 3.3 kilowatts
Okay.
of power, right? Which is a decent amount of power to power your home. So that's, without me saying too
Okay.
much. Yeah.
Okay,
We're
so-
big on using cars for EVs rather to add to solving the energy problem in Africa.
Okay, so that's what I was gonna come to. We're speaking, and I'm sure people don't even know JéGo. Like, what do they do? What do you do?
Right.
They'll probably be filling,
Mm-hmm.
trying to fill it out from what we're saying. What exactly does JéGo? What do you do?
Sure. One of my favorite books by Simon Sinek is Start With Why. And basically, for us, our why at JéGo is unlocking the economic potential of electric vehicles and clean energy on the continent. We see something much more powerful than the hardware, that is being used for just transportation. It's so much more than that. It's a platform that we're building, and we're big on connectivity, IoT, and facilitating transactions on this platform. So think about how through that phone in your hand, right? Prior to iPhone, there was BlackBerry. Well, BlackBerry was locked into just BlackBerry, and what we're building basically connects different devices, connects different applications, just like you have Uber, Airbnb, and the rest. So, for example, you could have one day have your energy hack on the JéGo platform. We'll talk about that offline, but that's what we're building, where businesses can build, and our customers today, beyond just saving, because we're against modular, renewable, clean energy, right? Solar and it's hybrid. You can use grid to charge it and solar. So our customers save a lot of money, hundreds of millions of naira, close to $1 million, and also they create new sources of income.
Okay.
Right. So when we say a platform, we mean that we're a platform. Our customers are doing this in real time. They created new sources of income that they didn't have. So beyond just putting money back into their pockets, they are creating new sources of income to further power their lives. No pun intended, or pun intended. So that's what we're doing. So we have electric vehicles. It's like you mentioned earlier, we started with self-driving vehicles, and that's where we're going. Safety, and safety. That's why. So the inspiration behind JéGo was a loved one was passed away in a car accident, and there were two errors on both sides. One, the driving, after a certain time when you shouldn't be driving, human fatigue and human error, right? And then the other was after the accident took place, it took about 4 hours for him to get medical service, so there was no chance to survive. So for me, again, my entire life, as you mentioned, I've been coding since I was a teenager, a little bit earlier than that, but I've always looked at the world from a perspective of business, and because again, the family I grew up in, serving and using technology to address those things quickly. And I've done that my entire career. I don't look at the world any other way. When I see a problem, I instantly think, use technology to solve it in my head. I don't just solve it in my head. I usually, most of the times I execute. Not everything you execute on, but for the most part, I execute if it's something that means something to me and it's bigger than me. So I saw an opportunity to solve for the average African, to ensure they don't experience what I experienced, what we experienced as a family. And we set out to build, AI self-driving powered vehicles. So our first vehicle that we built, which used in the JéGo pod, and it took a team of brilliant minds to bring that together. It wasn't just me who was in a shop somewhere, putting this together. These were some of the best engineers from different backgrounds: Nigeria, China, America, Egypt. Everyone came together to build that vehicle. And in America, to build one of those is like $1 million roughly. Bottom of that was to build one. The bottom of that is like 750. But in China, we're able to build that at less than that, about $200,000 under. And for us, that was a significant reduction when you look compared to America. But when you still come to Africa, that's still on the higher side.
Yes.
Right, because of the conversion rates.
Yes.
So we had, the different African countries, all the organizations that we met in all those countries were very excited. They wanted the pods. When she mentioned the price point, they're like, so that was when we saw, and that's when we saw, okay, we needed to go back to drawing board and really bring something that was under $25,000.
Okay.
It wouldn't have been the same completely driverless, but still have that AI-powered function. Like the JéGo Zero, for example, starts at $13,999 roughly, and that has lane keep assist, brake assist, traffic jam assist. So you're not basically, accelerating and braking every single time. And object recognition, like traffic light, red light traffic, for example. And again, remember why I started this was safety. And I've been in situations myself where people have driven past red lights and hit me, right? And that's one of the biggest causes of accidents in the world: red lights, stop signs. So that's again, in technology, you gotta start from the foundation and build up. So that's what we did. We built the vehicle that we're going, showing capability of doing that. But our focus is impact, as you mentioned earlier. So if we're building $200,000, that's vehicle that falls on the luxury side, meaning the average African can't have access to the benefits of that. So we pretty much went 10%, of the cost of the first vehicle, which is an improvement for us as a company. So now our focus is we went from selling maybe 100 to 1,000 of those self-driving vehicles that cost $250,000 to selling millions of these safer vehicles that also save money in the sense of fossil fuel. I mentioned earlier about you could get up to 420 kilometers on the JéGo Zero. And it sits 5 people, panoramic sunroof. So very comfortable, safe ride. And most importantly, you could, you can earn with that through different ways on our platform. So with that being said, our customers today are not only saving and changing their lives with clean energy, like powering their homes, their businesses, from households to housing communities, universities, hotels, and whatnot, hospitals. We're powering these organizations, and every single one of those places and communities have people that need to be moved. So in Africa, our strategy started with energy, which was, you can't sell, electric vehicles to people that have energy.
So I was going to get to that,
So that was how we entered the African market. The energy hack for us. The energy hack for us was starting with energy. And again, from the engineering perspective, building your back end is more important than the front end. Or understanding how to build the back end is more. There are a lot of people that build front end, right? UI, UX designers. But when it comes to back end, that's usually when people have to go interview, find right? It's the same thing. So, so we're big on the back end of this business, like the aftermarket experience and servicing, charging, EV charging, but we're big on the modular side. Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you, right? We'll dive deeper in the future of EV vehicles. I'll start with Nigeria, right? What's your take with EV? There's this energy transition that we're having now. We're going from petrol, diesel to CNG.
Right.
And you can see what the government is doing. You can see what private players are doing. And there's that gradual shift. But there's still some people that say they want to leapfrog.
That they want to?
Leapfrog.
Okay.
And say, you know what, we just want to go straight from petrol to electric vehicles. So what's your take with this? Do you think it's right to just go straight to EV? Are we ready? Or should we continue that transition slowly into that? What's your take?
My take on it is that, we should innovate quickly.
Okay.
There's an opportunity in front of us right now. CNG is great. I believe anyone that can, or any company that can build between electric vehicle and CNG will probably, there's certain government meetings I've been in, and they're like, anyone that can build that, if JéGo can build that, that'll be a.
What do you mean
win.
build that? Like a CNG?
A hybrid vehicle between electric vehicle and CNG.
Oh, that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah. So there are things in our R&D that we can't speak on much, but I would say that's for this market, the African continent, because we're rich in those resources, and there are a lot of countries that are just discovering that they have these things.
Yeah.
And this resources, right? And but when you look at the opportunity that's currently taking place in America, between America and Europe and China, is the import tariffs. Europe has about roughly 50% import tariffs on China. Correct me on that number. I know, but for a fact, the U.S. has 100% import tariff, right? So the opportunity there is for Africa to be in the middle for electric vehicles and invest heavily in factories that build lower cost EVs.
So you're talking production.
Production, right?
Okay.
That's one big step. Not only first of all, by doing that, it makes it more affordable for our people.
Yes.
That's what China did. And, you go to Shanghai, Shenzhen, majority of China, a lot of people use electric vehicles.
Yeah.
There's CNG in China too, but they're more focused on that. They invested in solar farms. They solved the energy problem first, right? So you see, that's
what I was going to say.
And you could do it simultaneously, but if you don't have the budget, it's going to be challenging. Yes. But they invested first. So like Tesla did the same thing. The biggest EV companies invested in energy infrastructure. I'd worked for Solar City, which was basically Tesla solar after they acquired Solar City in my early 20s. And one of the things you learned there was Tesla was already basically part of the organizations put in solar panels on your roofs before you even knew what their car
Tesla.
was.
Oh, okay.
Right? Only a few people knew or had Tesla vehicles, but there were more people that had Tesla solar panels or the power wall in their homes before they even got the vehicle. That was the strategy. So they got in with that, and they built their charging stations. And those charging stations were initially closed off to just Tesla.
Yes,
owners.
I saw that. Yes.
And now it's opened up, right, for other vehicles. They'll be generating about $20 billion annually from that, right, because of that universal EV charging. So the biggest thing that I'm pointing out here is when you invest in that energy infrastructure, it's a hack, right? Again, energy hack. It makes it easier for your consumers to buy, right? And we're in a similar situation with America because America is it's an oil nation too, right? Texas, California, it's around, they're different places, right? And one of the biggest things that you would see there is there's also pushback on EVs.
I was going to say, I heard Hertz. They had a 2.5 billion investment for sharing
the Tesla vehicles.
Yes, and they found out that the people that rented the EV vehicles, they were people that owned one already. So there was no new market.
Right, exactly. So typically that would happen, right? Because the average person would be scared that if I'm renting this, I'm driving across town. They're not educated enough, and that's the biggest part.
So
that
the
we're
range anxiety,
and how the vehicle functions. And first of all, the cost. You spend about $10 or less on average, depending on where you charge, and the rates, right? When the time of the day you charge, if you charge in peak hours, you're going to be paying more. So we'll just say average $10 to $15 to charge a car 100%. Not 100% because you're not advised to charge up to 100% for the battery health. So about 90% roughly. So when you do that, you see those economic benefits. When I got my first EV, and I mean, the other car was like $105 to fill up the tank, and this was like $10 or $15 to charge, and that would last you the whole week, depending on how much you drive or how far you're driving. And if you live in a city like LA or if you live in like Abuja or LA, those hills can reduce the range, right? So,
and traffic.
traffic,
Nigeria
and then the
traffic.
biggest thing is the applications, because EVs run on all the applications, the software is run on the batteries, right?
Yeah.
The application. So same thing with I always say every living entity, basically organism, needs energy and mobility. Your cells need to be able to move resources in your body from one place to the other, and if they don't, there comes a problem, right? So mobility is even within the fund, like the most on the molecular level, your cells, and your cells need energy to move.
Yeah.
Right, that's part of the oxygen and other things that you put in your body, right? So it's those two things work hand in hand. Mobility and energy are it's like breathing. If you don't move, you literally die over time. Your knees, your joints, everything. Just there's a saying that you don't get old. You don't stop moving because you're old. You become old because you stop moving. Right. So any economy that doesn't have affordable, sustainable mobility systems, over time will start to witness those economic hardship, right? And the cost of energy or the accessibility of energy, if it's not sustainable, which would impact mobility and overall life for that individual, you see those negative domino effects. And we can kind of see that right now in Nigeria, right? Where there are people who would choose to stay at home, right?
Yeah.
If you remember when the subsidies were first removed,
It was,
and there were states where states were like I heard about it, where states had to keep or request that teachers or employees stayed at home
work
within certain periods. So again, it leads to a negative domino effect. So what we're doing at JéGo, literally our name meaning movement, in Wolof language, progression, and in, like I mentioned, the original meaning easy go, easy mobility, right? And in Filipino energy. So we've always been in the mobility and energy business intentionally. As I mentioned, the power pods, similar design to this mic, that can convert your car, your EV, to a solar, or rather renewable generator to power your home temporarily or your business up to 3.3 kilowatts.
Fully charged.
So I'll break this down. So the device that I said kind of looks like this mic, which is a power port, that's like an adapter.
Okay.
So you plug that into your EV and connect it to so it's V2L, vehicle to load, vehicle to grid. So you could power whatever you need to power up to 3.3 kilowatts. 3.3 kilowatts, you're looking at, if you're doing about 300 watts per hour.
Okay.
Right. So you look about 10 hours of power supply, roughly. That's 10 to 11 hours roughly. And then, but that's the adapter. Now we have our modular energy power pods as well. Like you've seen the ones like the suitcase.
Yeah.
And we have other ones, up to 20 kilowatts modular. And, it depends on energy consumption, but we see the average customer does about 5 to 10 kilowatts. Again, all depend on the household, how much power, how long they want it to last, and what they want to power. Was it fans, AC, TV, fridges, all that. Businesses, you have some businesses that spend about 100 kilowatts of power per day. Some hotels do 500, 450 kilowatts. So, we have a customer, for example, that's doing about 500 kilowatts per day, right? So you can imagine with fossil fuel, it's very expensive on the generators. They're spending a significant amount, over $1 billion annually. So again, those resources can go back into businesses. Those resources, you have households. We have one of our customers I know that spend about 2.7 million a month on electricity and fossil fuel. It's about 30 million a year.
Yeah.
Right. And the average Nigerian say, I don't have money, right? But the money is going towards energy. So if we can figure out how to reduce that, which is what we're doing already, we see those positive domino effects on the economy. And that's, again, going back to what you said earlier, impact. What we're doing is much more than selling cars and selling energy solutions.
That's perfect. So I want to break it down again realistically. I love the idea and everything, but I just want to ask you, right?
Yeah, sure.
Like, this is Africa, Nigeria. We have our challenges. And globally, besides China, that I've seen, and I think China's new sales. I checked this before coming on as well. I saw that 40% of new car sales EV,
Right.
right? So China is doing theirs properly, but everywhere else,
Yeah.
it's issues, issues, issues. If it's charging compatibility, apparently some vehicles just are not compatible to charging slots.
Right.
Time of charge. Again, as we mentioned, range anxiety is the key one. Because, for example, I was in the States.
Right in the Bay.
Yeah,
You know, there's EVs everywhere in the
everywhere.
Bay.
But I tell you, I had a friend that rented a EV vehicle, right? And he returned it.
Which one did he? What did he
It
rent?
was a Ford.
Oh yeah.
So not because it was bad. wait. Not because it was bad.
Hey man, listen.
He's gonna kill me because he watches this, right? So
Yeah.
it wasn't because it was bad. Actually,
Yeah.
he had the anxiety. So he kept on looking at the battery. I said, "Wow, 50%. I'm not sure." So he kept on. He had the
That anxiety.
Yeah. So it wasn't a case that it was gonna die. He just constantly had it. He couldn't handle it anymore. So he returned it and took it for
I understand.
So so my question now is, how is this being addressed? And if you bring it local, because that's still happening in a country that is a lot more developed, at least at this moment. So bring it local to us. This challenge is, if it hits us, you have traffic jams. There's a time when this Lekki, where I've been there like 4-5 hours. So do you understand? Like, yes, even if I'm sure of the vehicle, like the anxiety, what do you think, and how can that be local?
Well, if you look at China, right? China definitely had the involvement of the government.
Okay.
Now, I don't even need to go too far as China. I'm going to go to Rwanda, right? So Rwanda has one of the highest adoption of EVs on the continent. We have operations out of Rwanda.
Oh, wow, I never knew that.
Right.
Okay.
0% import tariffs. Right. On
sense.
EVs and renewable energy. So again, the government has to be intentional about supporting this infrastructure. This civic tech, right? So it's you dealing with the public in general, right? So that's number one. The other part is strategy around the back end, the engineering, right? Again, you have to have people who look at things from that engineering perspective. That's what China did, right? The error in the U.S. was rolling out or pushing out the adoption of EVs on a mass level without sufficient infrastructure. Like again, as I mentioned, China invested in solar farms, right? Megawatts, right? Generating megawatts, like tons of them, right? The U.S. doesn't have a lot of that.
Because people have to charge off peak time. Like there's a lot of
using this grid.
scheduling.
It's grid based. Yeah, scheduling. There was a time in California last year or the year before that, where the state government requested that residents didn't charge in those peak hours to not put pressure on the grid for a certain period of time. It wasn't a long.
In Nigeria, you can't put pressure on any grid.
There's
right
no
now.
grid. So that's where we come in as a company, JéGo.
Okay.
Distributed modular energy systems, again, ranging from 1 kilowatts all the way to over 1 megawatts. So we're able to set up systems that rely on solar. We have high capacity solar panels that we provide, up to 680 watts, solar panels. So being able to generate quicker. We also use DC plus PCS system that provides quicker energy efficiency conversion from solar panels to the system. And also, when you're during the day, instead of using the battery, you're using the energy directly from the solar panels.
Okay.
So essentially, if there was, even during the day, if there was demand for more energy, whatever was in the battery would. Right. So if, for example, a 900 kilowatt system, 500 kilowatt inverter, quote unquote, system will enable us to set up sufficient energy charging stations that will allow faster charging, DC charging, support DC charging, which is fast charging, and level 2 charging. So in Rwanda, similar strategies implemented there, where they have a reliable grid, but the grid is also expensive. But they don't have too much pressure yet. But what they've done is invest in charging stations. So, as we were talking about earlier, where the collaboration is key in this space. I've seen that there's like competition sometimes on the continent. Everyone's trying to
compete.
Yeah, everyone wants to be Tesla or Elon Musk or whatever. But that's not. If you look at China, no one cared about that, right? The West was more focused on being. Everyone was like Ford. Everyone was focused on beating Tesla. But fundamentally, if you look at how China did it, they all collaborated, and one way or the other, whether it was government and private or private and private, shared
As you
resources.
mentioned earlier, the same mode, the same.
Yeah, the modes are key, man, for reducing cost and just engineering resources. So we need to do the same, where companies collaborate with other companies. Everyone brings their strengths together, right? I play basketball, so in basketball, you just saw the Olympics, man.
Yeah.
So, you can imagine, if you weren't Steph Curry and you try to shoot over Wemby, everyone has different skill sets.
Yeah.
You're able to hit that floater. That's Steph Curry's skill set. LeBron has his own skill set. Everyone brought their own unique skill set to the table. And like, for example, Anthony Edwards, who was newer to all of that, he brought a unique set of skill set. That was his first Olympic Games, but he still contributed to the team winning. So that's how we see this happening on the continent. We're big on collaboration. And going back to range anxiety, modular energy, we have portable EV charging, up to, and they're parallel. You have parallel connectivity.
Okay.
So it starts at 5 kilowatts, but you can combine it up to 25 kilowatts.
Okay.
Right. And you can also request it to be brought to you.
Okay.
So with JéGo, you don't have to worry about being stuck. And, again, key strategic partnerships for us, is key. And we're able to, work with companies on different levels and different ways that makes sense for the parties involved.
So it sounds like the infrastructure from your end sounds very modular and mobile.
Yes, we're big on that.
So you've understood it.
Mobile energy.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. JéGo, the name is in the name, man.
True.
Movement and energy.
True. We all worked. That's nice.
Yeah.
I like the name. I really love the name. Yeah. So, is that why you're with Coach Charis at the moment? And when are we gonna see? I've not seen one yet.
What, the power pods?
No.
The vehicles.
The vehicles.
Well, they'll be in here in the fall. So with Coach Charis, is Coach Charis Technologies first, right?
Okay.
On the energy distribution, because for us that's key.
Yeah.
And Coach Charis works with the government.
Yeah.
And all that. So again, but we also have our own government ties and relationships.
Yeah.
So again, all of it was relationships that I have that saw the synergy, the different levels to the relationship and partnership with Coach Charis beyond just distribution, right? So the biggest thing for us is how can we, drive that mass adoption, and they have the network of logistics, distribution, and we're able to collaborate with other entities as well. Nigeria is a large nation.
Yep.
Africa is, the demand and the market in Africa is huge. And again, the benefits of EVs beyond just it being a hype, it's not hype anymore, but for some it's hype, right? Or a trend, bandwagon trend, thing.
Yeah. So
for us, from day one, has always been, look, we can use this to, one, export African innovation. Africans are brilliant when it comes to electric related technologies. I grew up in Lagos, so I know without it, like, you see guys that didn't go to school that's just brilliant with innovative electric related, they come up with innovative electric solutions.
Yeah.
Right. Without going to school.
Yeah.
So it's in our DNA to understand these things. So I was betting on that. I started my engineering career in Nigeria as well. I started coding here, right? First thing was MS-DOS, floppy disk era, IBM. IBM, that was like 1996.
Wow.
My dad's computer, it was just games. It wasn't like, you had a code to use it back then. You had to write programs on MS-DOS to use those IBM computers.
You learned all that?
Yeah, I had a tutor
Okay.
initially. Then after it was like I don't know how long, 2 months, a month, and I was young, so I don't know. My dad just had this interest in innovation from time. Just I guess with we have a manufacturing business as a family, so back then there was a lot of, I guess for him, just innovation around how to simplify manufacturing. With what they were doing.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, I mean, again, going back to just the entire ecosystem. I believe modular energy, there are people that need to rely on the grid because the grid is still there, right? The grid
Yeah.
is there, and I believe we're modernizing our grid
Yes.
little by little, step by step. Um, the modular distributed energy systems and renewable energy systems would help, alleviate the stress on the grid. One,
Oh, yes.
two, the cost of charging. Because the increase in the tariffs, the
was coming
rates.
to that.
So that's another part. So, and the beauty of it is the mandate around mini grids, being able to set up your own mini grids. That's the opportunity, right? So, and I hope and I believe that was the intention, and there won't be in the future like something that stops it when they see changes. But that's one thing that people don't see, but I believe that would help change how there are a lot of like I always tell people in America, I'm like, you guys underestimate the EV market in Africa.
Yeah.
You have to actually be on the continent to see it. And there are a lot of interesting players, that are in the space. We were talking about the boats earlier. I don't know if you can imagine. We're talking, Ibile and Cole and others have interest in the space. I mean, Jack, is it Jack?
I even saw this dispatch company, Max. They have a bunch of
electric bikes. Yeah,
and,
e-bikes are big on the continent.
So I was shocked. I didn't know there were that much.
Yeah, yeah. They're and then the other guys are Global. They actually
Global. Okay.
Friend of mine has I believe they're called Siltech. Okay. So they're bikes, they're e-bikes, and 2-wheelers, 3-wheelers.
Yeah.
And they have a partnership with Global, I believe.
Okay.
So yeah, so I mean, there are different companies, in the space. Pam Africa, that's another friend of mine. Hamster Energy, again, I'm an ecosystem player. All of us can win together. The market is huge, and there's a lot of infrastructure that needs to be built, and it requires shared technology. If you look at Silicon Valley, if you look at China, Israel, even Europe. I mean, obviously, we're leaving Europe out of this conversation. Europe's a big part in the EV adoption, right? Europe also goes through similar pushback. You gotta remember, oil and gas still is the dominant form of providing energy for cars, and it's natural in business. There's lobbyists, there are journalists that are being paid to push out. How do you trade stock options?
No, I don't.
Or stocks or crypto trades. Yeah.
I've done that in the past.
Yeah. So like how that goes. Yes. Like the shorts and calls. Yes. So when you shorting a stock or betting against or buying a call, puts and calls rather. So there are players that put out news daily to drive these markets because the revenue, there's a lot of money in day trading. One, two, there's those companies too. It benefits them, right? So there are people betting against it, and it's natural. And there are people on the clean energy side betting against. You look at the election in America that's about to take place. You have Trump, and then you have Kamala Harris that's always been pro clean energy, right? That's how they pretty much one of the reasons how they got in the election last time, right? With Joe Biden. I mean, look at Trump too. Trump has always been coal and oil, but so you switched. Guess why? The EV money came in, and look at that, right? So if the EV, that says a lot. That's a lot to say there. I mean, it shows a lot rather that it was EV money that got this coal guy, oil guy, to switch.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure his friends who are in the oil and gas business in Texas and everywhere else were pissed at that, But I don't think it's it's always going to. I think there's always going to be that mixed energy, and I think it's going to end up moving to like higher demand, like higher capacity vehicles, like trucks. They're again the electric trucks, freight trucks, like from Tesla and other companies, right? Automotive is one of them, out of the Israeli company. They do electric trucks and big vans and buses. So there's that, and then there's the electric boats. Right?
Boats are coming.
The boats are coming.
Planes are coming soon.
So they'll need modular energy.
Yes.
So we'll love to provide that. You know, they have the modular energy on the boat. So if there's temporary need to charge in the middle of nowhere, they're just trying to get back to base, right?
That'll
so that's the key thing.
Rest of mind.
Yeah, that's our focus. You're not getting 100% charge. You're going to get enough. You'll be able to get between 50 to 100 kilometers to get back to the next charging point, right? And more. Right, because your next charging point could be 5 kilometers or 10 kilometers.
How long does it take to charge?
So 5 kilowatt hour, for example, if the vehicle is a 50 kilowatt hour vehicle, and on AC charge, level 2 charge, you know, you're looking at an hour to get or less to get that 5 kilowatts in the vehicle. So you're doing 5 kilowatt per hour to charge. Now on a DC, we have DC charging, but those are fixed and tied to either solar or grid. So that you're looking at like 30 minutes to an hour to charge 100% or 90%, 100%. So again, that's again grid, solar source. What's the source of the power provided and how it's so. But I mean, it's on the continent. I believe it's going to be mixed for a while. I mean, I think not just on the continent, for the rest of the world too. China is still mixed.
China is mixed, but they predict by 2035.
2035 is the mark.
Yeah, by 2035 is going to be like new intakes of any vehicle being sold in China is going to be straight new energy.
Yeah, Ethiopia has already made moves in that direction.
Really?
They banned ICE vehicles.
Okay.
Not sure if it's immediate, but I know it's pretty much something that they've already signed and is in effect. Not sure, can't recall the exact timeline, but I did remember in a meeting that was mentioned that decision was made and they realized they need to build more charging stations. So again, that's the problem is like when these decisions are being
before the horse. That's the question now.
That's the problem when you don't have engineers and strategic engineering talent and minds in these rooms when these decisions are being made. There's hype, right? There's hype into this, vision. There's a lot of players who get into this space because of hype or they're following and emulating. But when you have a vision, you'll be able to, first of all, plan and weather the storm, right? If you look at Tesla, it wasn't rosy. It still isn't rosy, right? BYD and everyone else is on their necks, right?
They're experiencing a lot of issues right now, Tesla.
Yeah, I mean, that's just, the ebbs and flow of business. Yeah. But it took them a while to get to this point. And then if you look at BYD, same thing, they invested in energy. BYD started, when they started their EV journey, their first EV looked like a Toyota Corolla. Remember that previous Corolla that was like a toaster kind of? The older Corolla, I remember. The one they used for like Bolts and Ubers.
Yes.
That one.
A bit
that one that's like this.
Yes.
Yeah, the one right before the camera. Yes. That design. That was the first BYD. It looked like that. Again, molds.
True.
Right? So that was, exactly.
That's a good test.
So they did that, and it was obviously they weren't selling, no one knew who BYD was. They were selling batteries that was their first core business, battery and energy. So by the time they got to the EVs at scale and up to like, they have like their Blade battery packs and whatnot. So like they've been able to create a lot of innovative solutions in the space that gave them an edge. But they approached it from that engineering back end perspective. I don't believe, like for example, there are companies that bring in the Nigerian market that bring in like 15 EV models at once. I'm not mentioning names.
Let's not.
But 15 models at once in general in business is, again, it's spread itself thin, but most importantly, you having 3 models is one thing, but 15 is
all these models are, just to be sure, they're very different. It's not just about the looks.
They're different.
Very
Like I've
different.
seen, I'm not, and this is not just, this is even in the US, there are companies that do that. Like they just want to get into the space. Maybe the guy or the lady founder or whatever has some money from a different venture, or they're able to raise money from something, and they just brought it like 15 miles. Again, the focus shouldn't be on just the car and the luxury. Like I've seen companies here in this space bring in luxury EVs to the market. Now, that's another part of the challenge is the cost. The average person in this market, again, the range anxiety, they're naturally going to say, I'm not buying that.
Yeah.
I'm buying a fossil fuel car that I trust, no wahala.
Yes.
Right.
You can't be
No
stuck
wahala,
on Third Mainland
right.
Bridge.
Third Mainland Bridge. There was actually a guy, remember like 2-3 years ago, the Tesla that got stuck.
Oh, I didn't see that.
It got
Yeah?
yeah,
That
Third
would
Mainland
be-
Bridge had to get towed or something like that. So, like again, investing in the understanding the back end of the business is key. And another part is just for us that we're big on is servicing for aftermarket for our vehicles and
I
our
was gonna
energy
ask,
products.
because who's gonna fix the cars?
Yeah, our team is big on that. Like in Rwanda, we provide that service right now. And it's not, the good thing is not just the only JéGo vehicles. We provide that to the JéGo X station in Rwanda, in Kigali, Rwanda, BYD, BMW, Hyundai, like so hybrid and EVs.
So my thing is adoption, right?
Right.
So you have people that will go to, if you have a Benz, you go to a Benz dealership. You go to several dealerships.
I have something to say about the Benz
So,
dealership.
so imagine you go to dealerships, right? There's some people, they don't go to the dealership. There's someone they have somewhere there that can fix it.
Right.
It's a lot cheaper.
Right.
It's easier. So with this EV, it's going to take a while for them. They must go to a dealership, essentially.
Right.
Like you'll be like a dealership, right?
Somewhat.
So
yeah.
Still back to how much money that would cost to fix it.
Right. Well, on the money side, we haven't launched that service here in Nigeria yet. We're Rwanda. Now, pricing and all that, that's not fixed. It depends on what has been resolved, right? You have, for example, Mercedes. You mentioned dealership. When I got my first EV was an EQS.
Okay.
Right. And there was an issue, right? I was at a charging station and there was an issue with the battery coming on. This was a Mercedes. Had to leave it there, take an Uber and go home. Now, there's no problem with that. I understand things have problems, especially as an early adopter with that particular vehicle. That was their first EV. But what happened was they had to call Germany. The dealership, again, this is where, for us at JéGo, we're big on education. Not just of our customers, but team members, investors, the public. Most dealerships today, the salespeople and the engineering team are trained for combustion engine. Yes. And this is usually when it's legacy automobile companies. So when I say legacy, like Toyota, Lexus. Toyota is a bit different because they invest a lot in innovation, like the Prius. So they've always led with that clean energy. But, Ford, you mentioned your friend's Ford issue. Ford, I'm not, going to say too much there, but there's been challenges around that. They're a more established company, obviously, than JéGo is. But they're a legacy automobile company, right? It's always going to be the Blockbuster versus Netflix, the BlackBerry versus Apple, right? The Tesla versus everybody else. That's what it was at that time, right? Because it's literally an EV versus legacy automobile companies. And even with the stock analysts and how they were valuing the company, the valuation of they were valuing on, they're, like Ford and Mercedes, but this was a technology platform. That's what Tesla is, much more than that. Technology, software, hardware, energy, solar panels, etc., factories, So the valuation and how you treat these companies are two different things. So again, legacy automobile companies operate differently. They approach it differently. And people who approach it too from that mindset that come from that world will approach it the same way.
They approach the former.
That same former way of thinking. Now, companies like ours that are technology companies, we're not dealerships, right? We have JéGo X stations that function similar to how a dealership would function, but that's not the only function. There's much more, right? There's the experience, education, servicing, charging, testing, all that. So the JéGo X station for us is how we are approaching this market on the continent and globally. Because even globally, the education part, it's not just in Nigeria and Africa, all the European countries and in the Americas, North America, South America, the Caribbean. There's a lot of opportunity that is there to address. And for us at JéGo, we see, again, as I mentioned, a unique angle approaching this as a platform. And I gave the example of how the stock analysts or investors looked at Tesla as a legacy automobile company. And for us, we see, VCs, we've raised capital, from investors, VCs, folks in presidency, like, in governments, I can't mention, on a federal level. So, but we've seen some investors that, again, not too savvy with the space, that compare like why energy, why vehicles, man. Like, if you look at the largest electric vehicle companies, they address both from day one, right?
You have to.
You need energy to drive a vehicle.
You have to.
Self-driving vehicles consume more energy than regular EVs because it's applications.
Sure.
The sensors, everything, all that.
Are you trying to do self-driving here?
So, as mentioned, the JéGo Zero has AI-assisted driving.
But it's not full.
It's not fully self-driving. Now, I always love to talk about this part because people are, so with self-driving, if you remember why I started a company, was safety and an experience that happened with a loved one, right? Driving is about awareness. I love cars and I love to drive. I mean, I taught myself how to drive, right? I've driven in about 10 countries, right? To date. I love driving. It's my favorite thing to do. I drive from LA to the Bay easy on, like, it's one of the most beautiful drives too. And in Kigali, in Lagos, it's hard. I love driving.
I was gonna tell you.
Lagos is more of like you're doing. It's almost like you're racing every day because you have to avoid.
Yes.
It's like you're in a race because you're avoiding. Like, you have to, you have to be aware. And if you're not aware, you see the cars that are not aware. They have the dents everywhere. So, but I love cars. I love driving, and it's always been about that experience that you're creating, and from that perspective of creating safer, aware, intelligent vehicles that are connected, communicating with another vehicle. That's something that people are not even thinking about yet. And again, for us as a company, as a technology company, IoT, Internet of Things, right? Connected devices. That's where the world is and where it's going. Yeah. It's only increasing more, right? In this room, we can count how many things are connected to each other. Your phone to your car, phone to the screen, phone to probably the mic, the cameras.
Yeah.
Right? So same thing with vehicles are the next platform, just like phones and computers, with laptops, right? Yeah. And over time, the unit of economics will get better. And that's part of what we're betting on, is that price reduction to where everyone has it. Our focus as a company at JéGo is mass adoption, right? So we're not focused on luxury vehicles. Going back to self-driving, we started with those AI part. Again, for us as a company, we built a self-driving vehicle. For the continent, obstacle avoidance when you're on the roads is how and where the magic of self-driving comes in. These vehicles go through millions of miles or hours of simulation. First of all, there's the physical on-road testing, right? And once you do that, with the cameras, LiDAR cameras, and the sensors, the ultrasonic sensors, you're able to map out the environment, create digital twins. And the digital twins, if you play GTA, and how responsive those are. So interestingly enough, the similar technology that is used, the game engines, that's actually how it started. And it's the simulation environments. They had literally the multi-million-dollar tech companies, even over $1 billion. NVIDIA is one of them that provide this simulation environments. So your cars can be trained millions of hours. It's like your brain.
I got you.
You play any sport?
Yeah, football.
Soccer, right? Football.
Yes.
So you know how you think of, I love basketball, so I love soccer. I don't play, once I got to a certain height.
So I usually have this thing when people call it soccer.
It's, you know, it's
The
the American thing.
Yeah, go on,
forgive
go
me,
on,
man.
go on.
So you know, American football
Yeah,
is
yeah.
one sport.
American football, yes.
That's, so that confusion, that distinction.
Yes.
But in sports, one of the things we learn is, you know, like I'll speak from a basketball perspective.
Okay.
In my mind, you spend like when you're obsessed with the sport, your brain, even while you're sleeping, you come up with moves that you've never done on the court. Or even before you dunk, before you dribble, you have to really see yourself doing it before you get in the physical world and do it. So the same thing works with self-driving. It's just like self-driving is like raising a child. One, it gets more aware, more intelligent over time. The information that you feed it, the data you feed it. So actually there's the case here in Africa, African countries, Nigeria especially, creates a unique opportunity for us to prove out. And, you know,
hours.
I'm sorry?
You will need loads of hours.
Loads of hours. I mean, yeah. It's, and you know, with the simulation too, is you put them in infinite scenarios. I won't say infinite, but in numerous scenarios. Kid crossing the road, obstacle on the road,
please add
all that.
When it rains and the pothole is covered with water.
yeah. So, and the chicken, right? Someone said chickens crossing the road and all that.
They don't cross the road.
Or someone said that. Someone mentioned that chickens crossing the road, and I think it was Uganda. Someone mentioned that. But we've heard different things.
Yeah, but it's true.
Right.
Like,
so, but it's
scenarios.
You know, they're different scenarios. So you have to put all that there,
yes.
and then you train it. You have to do the testing environments first. You don't just deploy them on public roads. Even in the States, we didn't just deploy on public roads. You got to deploy in closed environments, campuses like universities, office environments, you know, parking lots before you go test, test on public roads. So it's actually, we're looking forward to deploying our lower cost self-driving vehicles. Again, the AI assisted ones will be just like most vehicles have. Like Mercedes, BMW have those intelligent driving systems. We're starting with that part. But the goal, again, with those lower cost EVs is to build our lower cost. So if you've seen what Cruise and Waymo and the rest, even Zoox, they use like Toyota and all the vehicles. But instead of using all the vehicles, we're using our vehicles, right, that have steering wheels to do that testing. And also make spoon feeding. You can't jump we'll have the vehicle. We're looking forward to bringing the JéGo Pod, which is a self-driving vehicle, driverless vehicle here for demos, and we're looking forward to bringing that before the end of the year.
Is it Lagos?
That's the aim. That's the goal. Okay, Lagos.
Please let me know.
But closed environments, not on roads.
Not
on roads. So that's about just demos. We're working on that. You know, till today, we're still the only self-driving focused company on the continent. And, you know, we get these questions a lot. And we're looking to collaborate with other entities in the space. We've signed a partnership with Chip Lab, which is a Nigerian-owned, and Nigerian-based and Ghana-based semiconductor manufacturer that will make it easier for us to do those type of things on the continent. And we have team members from Tesla, Apple, GM, Meta, and I mentioned Apple already. That we're and also from China's to Chinese part, basically being able to import skills, train all the engineers. Our team is very technical. Pass that, yeah. Okay, so that's amazing. Collaboration is a big part of everything we're doing.
You know what? We could be here forever.
I know.
I'm telling you, I'm enjoying this conversation so much. Yeah. 3 more questions, 2 or 3.
Okay.
They're looking at me like. I just want you to tell me what you think in the next 5 to 10 years, the projection of what you think would happen in the EV space.
I believe there will be quantum leaps, except there's government pushback.
Okay.
It's inevitable. The factors and forces driving the adoption include economics, the cost of fossil fuel, right? Education and awareness, right? Seeing what China is doing, and also talking about China. China is a force in the automobile sector now.
Yes. And
manufacturing sector. And they need to, some people say dumping in Europe and America. Yeah, I think they're starting to dump in Africa too. You have companies like, not dump, but they're expanding. That's the word people say, but I don't think it's dumping. It's just they're a force and they have to sell.
And China is one of the biggest markets.
Yeah, they sell to they're
top 3.
Yeah, believe they're the biggest at the
Yeah.
moment, actually, because they're selling. They have a wide adoption,
Yeah.
mass adoption of EVs in their country, and yeah, I believe there'll be quantum leaps. I believe there'll be more people because once they get educated, once they understand the benefits, those infrastructure challenges are addressed, which I believe they will. We will play our role in driving that, which is why we're here. We're already doing it, and we'll continue to do that. And by God's grace and strategy and execution, will contribute to driving the adoption of EVs. That's our why. That's our North Star. So our North Star is driving mass adoption of EVs. So everything and anything that needs to be done, by God's grace, again, yeah, I always move with God. I don't move with my intelligence and just myself. Everything I do is with God's instruction. So fundamentally, that's what I see happening. And also there'll be a lot of skill creation. The manufacturing
skills,
part will happen. You know, the Chinese companies, I don't know if that can be mentioned. You know, there's the Ibile or Lagride. I don't know if it's Ibile.
Okay.
I'm sorry if I mixed that up. Lagride deal where it's about 1,000 EVs. You know, things like that, right? Rwanda, I mentioned that. Uganda, the federal government invested in an electric vehicle factory, Kira Motors. They make buses, electric buses. Rwanda
But
has
they all
theirs.
assemble, right?
They assemble, but it's a little bit more than assembling with those guys. Their factory is huge. It's like a small town.
Oh, interesting.
we're connected with them there. You know, the Ugandan presidency and some VCs invited us to speak there and also meet over strategic partnerships over there. I can't share too much yet, but they have a huge factory that you require a car to drive around. You know, it's not something people you could walk. Well, it's a long walk. Very impressed to see that on the continent. Actually, very impressed. I think Africa has been underestimated on the contribution we'll make in the EV sector, and we have brilliant engineers. Again, like I said earlier, so lower cost labor, that would be the advantage. Being able to create innovative stuff, assembling locally. The first step is assembling, especially here in Nigeria,
which is
SKD, already, right? So there's a few factories I've heard. You know, there will be that over time. That demand will continue to grow. Yeah.
Okay, so we usually on the energy hack ask people what their energy hack is. Right? You've kind of mentioned a few at the beginning, and you know, so what makes Fredrick?
Oh man. My source is from source, God first. That's my energy, divine energy from God. That's JéGo, the name, everything, the vision, that's from God. So that's my energy source first.
Okay.
I meditate every day. I read my Bible every day in my devotional. First thing I do, you know, in no particular order. It could be meditate before I pray and read my Bible. That's my first energy source, right? The world we live in is crazy enough, and there are a lot of things out there that drain energy, right? And for me as a leader, in different ventures, being able to show up, especially in my community, in my family and community to friends, I have to be optimized every day. So I work out, I eat clean, I eat, man. I eat Nigerian food, so but I try my best to I work out, I spend time with family, friends when I can, and my biggest thing is I guess stretching, yoga, stuff like that.
So it sounds like you are mentally, physically, emotionally sound. That's what keeps you.
I make sure
spiritual.
I make sure everything is coherent.
Okay.
Now, I'm not saying every single time that, you know, we're humans.
Yeah.
So not every single time, but that's how I stay coherent. You know, the heart, mind, body, you know, coherence is key.
So how can we reach you? If you can just let us know.
I can be reached on LinkedIn. I can be reached at, you know, Fredrick Akpoghene. I believe my name will be spelled out.
Yes.
And also I can be reached on Instagram. Pretty active on there. AboveAv_mind, and that's spelled A as in Adam, B boy. Always an Oscar. V as in Victor. A as in Adam. V as in Victor. _ mind. And that's just the underscore symbol, mind. Those are pretty much the main platforms I'm active on. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much, Fredrick, for
Thank
coming
you very
on
much.
our show.
Thank you
I've
very
been
much.
chasing you for a while.
Thank you. No, I appreciate. No, I
our
appreciate it.
scheduling has been, I'm
thank
glad
you for
we
the time.
finally had to do it in person.
No, it's great. It's a great platform you have here. I love the name Energy Hack.
Thank you.
Love the logo. And like I said earlier, hopefully we can have Energy Hack and JéGo X stations do something. I see some things that could happen.
We would.
Yeah, we'll talk about that offline.
Yeah. So thank you to all our listeners. We'll see you on the next episode of the Energy Hack.